get from point A to point B, pilots need to navigate. There are two main types of navigation, IFR and VFR. VFR, used by most recreational pilots, stands for Visual Flight Rules and is a navigation using landmarks on the ground to navigate. To plot their route, a pilot can do one of two things. First, they can take a map and using current wind speeds plot a route that would go from point A to point B, compensating for the wind. Pilots will also sometimes have to avert certain obstacles such as large international airport cities, mountains, etc. The second way to plot their route is to just go flying for fun, and not really a route is still considered VFR. The second type of navigation used by most commercial flights is IFR. IFR stands for Instrument Flight Rules. IFR works by using directional radios called beacons. Most beacons include a VOR, a very high frequency omnidirectional radio range station, and a DME, a distance measuring equipment station. Using DME, you can find the distance to the station, and using VOR, you can find the direction to the station. VORs were developed in the USA around 1937 and DME in Australia in the 1950s. On the ground, ATC controls the traffic and makes sure no aircrafts are going to hit each other using radar. Some aircraft also have radars on board, but mostly for weather purposes. Oh, by the way, ATC stands for Air Traffic Control. Radar was developed by many nations before World War II. During landing, pilots often use something called ILS, which stands for Instrument Landing System. ILS is a combination of a localizer, which will show the pilot whether he's left or right, and a glide slope will show the pilot whether he is too high or too low. Using the ILS and onboard equipment, pilots can select auto-land. Auto-land is a common feature of most modern jet autopilots. Ever since the 757 and the 767, aircraft have had FMCs, which stands for Flight Management Computers. FMCs take the aircraft's weight, length of runway, weather, and other factors to create a best route. FMCs have the frequencies of the beacon stored on them, however, more commonly, especially on the routes that go over the North Poles or the South Pole for that matter. And pilots will choose to use IFR-approved GPS as opposed to the beacons. These are all controlled by the FMC. Pilots also have various non-FMC controlled autopilot functions such as manual heading, altitude selectors, auto throttle, etc. These are all important to aircraft navigation. Radar and beacons were developed during the wars. Countries had to develop better navigation to compete with enemies. Radar was developed to see enemy aircraft. Outside of navigation, jet was invented due to war pressures as well. Many great innovations come from wars. With computers becoming more and more advanced, FMCs can become more advanced too, resulting in less strain on the pilot and more stuff done by the FMC as opposed to the pilot.